This is a country that wouldn't exist as it is were it not for Britain's past behaviour.
But I don't think we should be looking backwards hundreds of years. We should be looking to the problems we have now, which the Prime Minister is addressing. And on the question of slavery, we should be doing a lot more to end this evil.
Alright, and welcome to Little Black Book, you know what time it is. We're talking to you guys about UK, yeah, you read the title right. UK paid reparations to slave owners. Up until 2015, it's mad. Alright, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you have the minerals. You have the minerals. You have the minerals. You have the minerals. Alright, let's get into it. So, I recently read an article. This was 2018, so I'm 2 years out. Yeah, I recently read an article. It was on it was on the Mirror. It was on the Evening Standard. It was on the Telegraph. It was on a whole bunch of newspapers that recorded about what happened. But there was an original tweet that went out in 2018 by the HM Treasury, which was discussing or saying proudly that UK that your taxes have helped pay off the debt that UK had in accordance with slave owners who had reparations paid to them. Now, if you don't understand what that means, it means basically that UK have paid slave owners in the past, in the past, present and future, UK have paid reparations to slave owners and to the generations after them in regards to the fact that UK bought the freedom of slaves in 1833 roundabout, right? Where UK decided to buy out the slaves. Now, what does that mean? It means they bought the freedom and that slaves could be made free. But if you read the history, we weren't made free. We were then subjected to what we call apprenticeships, yeah? Which were meant to last for another 12 years after that, but only lasted for another 4 or so years, okay? This is key because this is the history now of UK. And why police forces have a systematic racism. Because just like America, where they started off with a police force beginning with slave patrol, we have the same thing in UK where they formed a police force of 100 corps at a time to actually police the slaves. So guess what you did? Look what's happened here. UK bought out the slave owners so that slaves could be free, right? But then they also wanted to they also then enabled slave owners to then train black folk because they wanted to train us out of our animalistic ways, apparently, because we're only animals. So they had to train us out of it. So they were going to give us they had switched it from now being slaves to being free, but you need to you're being underneath an apprenticeship, right? This apprenticeship would mean that the slaves got treated far more worse than they were when they were slaves. Why? Because they were now not being paid. It was unpaid work. And it's like, do you know what the story came to mind of? Was Egypt and Israel. When Israel was about to leave Egypt, when Moses came to freedom, right? Egypt's Pharaoh got even tougher. Instead of letting them go, he made it even tougher. He made the work even harder for the Israelis, right? He said, do you know what? Don't even give them straw. Let them do it now and go further and do it by hand. Guess what? The reason why he did that is because he was losing his grip, right? When the devil feels like he's losing his grip, he intensifies his attack. And so what we're seeing is now a system that is devilish, because the Bible says 2 Corinthians 4 verse 4, a system that was devilish at the time in the 1830s, was slavery.
Advantages of what you're saying. And I've not
Just in 10 seconds, Esther, if you will.
When you have a Prime Minister whose family benefited in compensation, and you have...
Really?
what do you mean, really?
Then they abolished slavery, and then what happened is we switched into what we call forced labour, where slaves would actually be punished for being, quote-unquote, lazy. The lazy Negro. And although we were free, we weren't free no more. In fact, now it got worse. And they then formed 100 police-like corps, whatever, to maintain and jail people and to punish people. They had the authority to punish people. So we've gone from being slaves to being free to now you saying we're not actually free because actually we have a police force that will make sure that you're not free. And if you decide to do anything else apart from work for the master that you were on, the plantation field that you were on, you'll be punished. Yeah? And they have the thing called what they call a windmill. right? And what would happen is that the black man would have to dance, yeah, on this windmill and basically dodge these like wooden things or whatever, or else he'd be hitting the chest and legs, right? It's mad. And you know, they were still getting beaten and attacked for not doing the work that they need to do, right? So basically, this is forced labor and worse than before, yeah. Now, in the tweet by the Haitian Treasury, and when we read the research, it says that that the reason why UK paid reparations to these slave owners, and guess what? One of the benefactors of the slave reparations is David Cameron. I wonder. I mean, I don't blame the guy for accepting free cash. I'm not gonna lie, but with just this, that shows you the extent. David Cameron has inherited legal payments from the government as reparation for slave owners back in the day. That's the kind of level we're at the moment. Do you understand? That's the kind of level we're at. 2020, yo. All right, cool. So, reason why the UK had to pay back some of the money was because they took a loan at the time of 15 million, which is a lot in those times. 15 million. It's not 15 million today. 15 million they took, yeah? And guess who they borrowed the money from? Nathan Mayer Rothschild. Now, you may have watched my video on COVID. You may have watched my video on conspiracy theories. I spoke about this, about the fact that war is often funded by both sides. War doesn't make the person in the middle win. It makes those who are funding it win, right? And I said about this in the 1944 when Israel was formed, that the Rothschilds were instrumental in forming Israel because they're Jews, they're Zionists, yeah? And they were instrumental in bringing Israel into fruition to what it is today, yeah? They partnered with UK to get Israel back to where it is. Now, if you know anything about Rothschilds, they are one of the so-called 13 bloodlines, right? That ruled the world, if you want to call it that. But they had this much money in 1833s to lend 15 million to a UK. Now, do you know why I know that's true? Because first of all, there's a Haitian Treasury. But second of all, I don't know if you've ever watched a show called Good Morning Prime Minister. Oh, guys, go and watch it. It's on YouTube. They spoke about a time when they wanted to go and purchase the canal between between Israel and whatever, Africa or whatever. And whoever owned the canal, it would be a financial gain. And the UK wanted to buy it ahead of the French because what would allow them to have control over the canal, right? This canal was allowing ships to go through. It would cut down, ship time, yeah? So now the Rothschilds were consulted at the time to help pay. So you have to understand something. There's a family who own more than the government itself. To the point, at one point, the Rothschild had a bank in UK. Listen, I'm not telling you anything that's not historical fact. Yeah? Historical fact. When we had the fights, things like Waterloo, and we have things like, what's his name? What is his name? I can't remember his name now. He's a famous, at Waterloo, I can't remember his name, the guy that did it. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that happened where they funded both sides because they have family members in different parts of Europe. It's mad. So our taxes were used to pay off the loan back to the families of these slave owners. Yeah. So the debt that we had in UK, one of it was that it was paying for the Rothschilds, but it's also paying back because the debt is going paid to the Rothschilds, but it's because we took a debt to pay the slave owners.
What do you mean, really?
I mean, that is the most extreme argument.
It is not an extreme argument.
If that's what you're basing on it, you're ruining your
of
arm.
our humanity. And this is...
And the generations after. Just think that. And it's at more than 50%. Total compensation of money went to just 6% of total claimants. Yeah? The benefactors of slave owners' compensation goes from generation to generation until it was paid, right, of the British elite. Yeah, and so what's happening as a result, because UK took money from Rothschilds. So guess what? I said this before. There are things that are seen. There are things that are unseen, that are speaking a lot and doing a lot behind the scenes. And sometimes you think that the ball players are the ones that you see on your screen. And I'm saying there are puppeteers that are behind the screen that pull many strings that we don't know about. But yeah, it's mad to think that the UK had to pay reparations to slave owners because the slave owners considered the slaves as property. They considered them as property, and so when they lost their slaves, they lost their what? Property. All of that feeds into a narrative and feeds into generations after that black people are simply just property to be hurt, property to be used, property to be used at their will. It's a mindset that has traveled down from both generations. So yeah, guys, as crazy as it is, it's mad out here. I wanted to educate you on something. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Do me a favor, yeah? You have the minerals now. Now you've joined the team, you have the minerals. You have the minerals, you have the minerals.